See, it's something you give an absolution and ain't even nobody in the confession box. You might as well forgive Casper the ghost. But he's already forgiven. Don't worry. Don't mess with him. Because it ain't nothing. It was meanness, hatred, or some old bullshit. You know what I mean? Okay, I'm sorry, but listen.
Father crying, hollering, oh God. And I immediately started running upstairs to where he was, and I caught his head. And I feel his head, and I asked him, I said, Dr. King, do you hear me? Dr. King, do you hear me?
Stop.
And
Jackson gets up there, now that everybody's gone, and begins to say, I was the last person to talk to Dr. King. And I held him in my arms, and I said, Dr. King, can you hear me? Dr. King, can you hear me? And he never touched him. He never touched him. See, he used that statement to say that's how he got the blood on his shirt. But Andy just told you how he got the blood on his shirt. What did he do? He did this. He did this. You catch that?
Yes, sir.
Jesus or Judas? Okay, so now Ralph Abernathy was the only person to hold Martin, just to be clear. And Ralph held him from the moment of the balcony till they put him on the stretcher. Ralph was the only one in the ambulance. Ralph was the only one in the operating room. Ralph was the only one at the autopsy. And you will cry when you hear Ralph Abernathy say, when they take that saw and cut open Martin King's brain, and he says, and I was looking there on that gurney at my buddy, and when they cut his head, I knew my buddy wasn't in that body anymore. And on that last speech, Martin King, before he makes that, I've been to the seen the glory to come in the Lord, he turns to Ralph Abernathy and he tells the audience, I want you to know something here tonight, that my best buddy in the whole wide world is Ralph Abernathy. And why did he have the need to tell everyone who he loved as his friend unless he felt someone trying to falsely plant themselves as that person? And again, since Jesse was 6 in the order, it was no way he was the heir apparent, and Martin had already carved out the structure of the organization. They all knew it was Ralph after Martin. Al Sampson could come up here and tell you how many times Martin ingrained. No, don't do it. Let's go here, because we're running out of time, and I'd rather have you see this than hear me.
To hold his head. By that time, Dr.
While the rest of King's Age huddled through the night at the motel, Jackson rushed back to Chicago, where rage was already sweeping the city.
Stop. The cable show I do in Chicago, I'm straight up down, seeing all over Chicago. Jesse watches the show, but in the show I mentioned Al Sharpton inspired me. Jackson calls Sharpton and accuses him of inspiring me to attack Jackson. Sharpton says, well, what did Coakley say? And Jesse gave him every detail. Sharpton said, and I wrote it down. He said, and then I went to see Reverend Claude I'm going to say Claude Wyatt. He said, I went to see Wyatt T. Walker, who was SCLC's field director at that time. And when he told Wyatt T. Walker what I said, Wyatt T. Walker said, protect Coakley. Don't let nobody mess with him. And tell Coakley that if Jackson ever attacks him or harasses him about that analysis, just ask Jesse to tell Coakley how he got out of Memphis on the night of the assassination, since the planes, the boats, the trains, the buses, and the cars were all cut off. When I mentioned that to Dick Gregory right before he came here a couple of weeks ago, Dick said, well, you know what happened, don't you? The FBI called the airport and let one plane out. One plane that had one Negro man on it. who got away from the others saying he was sick. Jesse says, well, you know, when they had the investigation, they never talked to me. Nigga, you left. You wasn't there. And that's when Don Rose says, and Jesse and I began to plan his resurrection. Then you're going to see Jesse at April 12th say, I'm ready for leadership now. And only 4 days after that, the FBI set up the plan to attack Ralph Abernathy and Andy Young and Coretta Scott King, with no plan whatsoever to attack Jackson, who's far faster, whose future was far higher than those donkeys and those mules. That thoroughbred would have been the one to stop unless he was yours. Okay, let's go.
When we were going to get in the car, it was really a silence, you know. It was who's going to speak first, you know, because I didn't have the words to say, and he didn't know what to say. And when he came home, he got in the bed with his shoes on and the shirt. And he just laid in the bed.
And I think that
In public, Jackson had an altogether different demeanor. It was as if he could see his destiny opening up before him at last, and he rushed toward it. 14 hours after the shooting, he appeared on the Today Show. Later that day, while listening to the solemn tribute at the Chicago City Council's memorial service, Jackson tapped Mayor Daley on the shoulder and asked to speak. Pointing to his shirt, Jackson said, "This blood is on the chest and hands of those who would not have welcomed King here yesterday." Then he called for calm in the city and end to the rioting. Meanwhile, at Jackson's directive, a movement publicist was booking interviews on Chicago TV shows. They were falling all over themselves to get Jesse, particularly as the word got out later that morning that Jesse had returned to Chicago and was wearing clothes stained with Dr. King's blood and was appearing before the city council and so forth. Don Rose accompanied Jackson to the tapings, the two men riding from studio to studio in the back seat of a car. He was thinking very clearly, thinking ahead, thinking of, frankly, his own career, the future of the movement, and his role within it. And we were both reinforcing each other with the view that Jesse was a very logical successor to Dr. King.
But I see you here so much alive, asking what to do. For the turn, I am available now. I am more convinced than ever that every time that there is a crucifixion in right and righteousness, that in every and universal that there is a resurrection. That is the
King needs, long resentful of Jackson, saw his behavior as brazen opportunism. They were already angry that he had spoken to the press in the hours after the assassination, and furious that he had so dramatically inflated his own part in the story of King's final moments.
A lot of those resentments that had been buried in the movement, and that allowed us to work alongside each other, but never got expressed in the emotion and frustrations of Martin's assassination.
Now watch Coretta, watch Jesse walking in front of her. Jesse's walking in front of her at her own funeral. Look at him walking in front of her, and watch him turn around and look at her, and she turns her head.
Their story went, King had
Watch this.
Jackson, told him to go do his own thing.
Look, she sees him looking, turns her head. He turns back, she turns back. That'll be in the tape. You can slow it down and look at it. Cut.
He remembers King.
Stop. Now watch this. Watch this. This is Pepper's book. Let's turn the lights on real quick. Now we're running down on time. I got to talk real fast. Page 246 of Pepper's book. In 1968, Ernestine Campbell and her husband owned the Trumpet Hotel, which abutted the Lorraine. No one has ever talked to her or asked her about what she saw on the fateful afternoon. Ernestine says she left the hotel and started home just before 6 p.m. Driving her gold bronze Cadillac up Butler and turning right on Mulberry, as she passed the Lorraine driveway on Butler, she saw Dr. King standing on the balcony. She didn't hear anything because she had the car windows up and the radio was on. As she turned